Hello, Uncle from Tactical Gamer. Wait a minute, practicallyrealgaming.com. Haha, man, still got the habit. Basically, I'm working on the mission coming up for January 11th, 2025. It's basically my first Reforger foray, and what I'm working on is a team versus team scenario, trying to make it a small team. Right now, I'm thinking it's 12 players. So 6 versus 6, I might be encouraged to increase it. So basically, it's just built off of the regular conflict scenario. And with that comes some limitations. And what you're seeing right now is the blue four already own this little spot over here. And Op4 already own this little spot over here. But that's not your actual starting point. So my previous intel I put out said this is your starting point. You start from here in the sense that you already own here. Let's go have a look from here. Op4 can attack here to here. I could select it by clicking the USSR, Coleman's Brow, they own that. And you can see that the radio range for that extends to the first 2 points. All right. Same thing for the U.S. airport storage, which is nothing that you guys see in game. Their radio range extends to the first 2 points. Each of these points, however, inside are all capturable, and each one of them allow access further on. All right, so this is the backyard. If you own the backyard, you now have the ability to go all the way through the rest of the objectives. The Op4 2 objectives are the church, which you can't get there from, and the factory, which you can't get there from. So Op4 would be able to attack these two. If you own one of these two, you can get to these two. If you own one of these two, then you would be able to get to the final US objective. And it works the same way back, because if the US owns the airport storage like they do, they can capture one of these first 2 points. And once they own one of those, being either the harbor, then they can get to the next 2 points, but they can't. If I move this camera around a little bit, if I click on the harbor again, you see that you can't get to Coleman's Brow. But that is not your starting point, right? The starting point for Op4 is actually way back here. And I'm going to create a zone restriction so that US players will not be able to go past Coleman's Brow. And that gives Op4 the ability to have a main base that is going to be able to build a radio, build ammunition, and then those supplies will slowly replenish, and they will start off, and each team starts off with 2 vehicles, a truck and an armed vehicle, armed Humvee or the BDRM on the Op4 side. And then what you'll be able to do is maneuver up and get into objectives and get in there kind of quickly. And that will then concentrate that small team fight into these 4 little areas. If you own 2 of these areas, you can then, it doesn't matter what order you go in. What you need to be able to do as a team is control all 6 of these areas for 5 minutes to win the match. And even if you lose all 5 of these areas, you have the ability from back here, probably your supplies are replenished, you have the ability to build a vehicle depot, that sort of thing, and then maneuver up. You will also have the ability to use deployed radios to create respawn points that will be limited to 10 respawns on each radio, but you would be able to use a custom kit. And I'm not going to enable any custom weapons in this scenario because, the conflict has already been well balanced out. But if you change up your kit, you may well need, and this is some testing I need to do, you're going to need to be able to have the ability to have a custom kit then on your respawn radio, and it's only going to allow you 10 respawns, and you will need to manage that as well. And so supplies are the way in which we are managing the follow through of the objective. If you decide that you want to be building more resources in the background while the other team is advancing, you take your chances. The other team advances, you can beat them back, but now you have more resources. That puts them on the back foot. So it's quite an interesting little idea. The main US base is way back here. I tried to make it sort of equal distance, so because the US, I did have them up here in the airport, but it's a quick drive down the airport to get to here to reinforce. So if you're up for and this is your last objective, let's say that you're attacking, that it takes a little bit more time for the Blue 4 side to get a vehicle or whatever and be able to get to you. It should take them long enough that you should be able to capture this, but then it takes 5 minutes to capture. It's going to take 5 minutes to hold it. You're going to need to maintain that defense. So I think it makes an interesting scenario. So like I said, zone restriction on the actual main bases. This is something that I want because I don't want players from either side coming down here spawn camping. With our small player version of the mission, I probably don't need to worry about that. I'm probably going to add an extra slot, so if I'm not playing on one of the teams, I can then manage it from Game Master and ensure that players don't get down there. If I have the time, I'll create a zone restriction and then maybe I can play. The other thing is I've built in custom loadouts into each of the teams. So you can, while you spawn in, you're only going to be able to select a loadout from, the regular presets, automatic rifleman, grenadier, appropriate to your faction. Now, the problem with that is that they have very limited ammunition. So building ammunition at your starting point is probably key so you can load up. And what I don't like about this is that it also means you can bring secondary rifles and add a whole bunch of stuff into the mix. You burn up those supplies on those kits, you're not going to be able to build vehicles when you need them on respawns. The respawns are going to be limited back at the main base. You are not going to be able to respawn forward. So each team will spawn always at their main base and need to redeploy. But again, such a small area with a 5-minute limit on capturing every point, this should be doable. And a 5-minute limit, once you've captured all 6 objectives, it takes 5 minutes to hold all 6 at the same time. It wouldn't take too much for somebody to come around and get something, another objective in behind you. So it creates some interesting tactical scenarios. So I think that's a good once over. And the other thing I'm thinking of is I would like to actually limit the kits that you can select to, only one grenadier, one automatic rifleman. But that hardly matters when you can build an ammo supply point and then take whatever you want anyway. I'm supposing that's a custom kit, so that's one of the things we need to test. That's where we're at. I think this is going to make for a fun fight, and it should be all in good fun. TvT can sometimes get a little heated, and hopefully that's not the case, that we all take it. This is, not obviously play tested by a bunch of players for a long period of time. So whatever balance issues we find. If it's a steamroll, we'll switch teams and roll over it again. Anyway, there's a little bit of an introduction to the idea of the mission, and sign up, and looking forward to getting custom missions flowing on the server.